classifying it as a supply problem, I think, is a misnomer. Believing that if we just build more, it'll be better. I think what there really is I think we have a consumption crisis.
Welcome to the Bailiwick Express podcast. My name is Matthew Leach. I'll be joined each week by a guest for a series of podcasts. Each will shine a light on topics from across the bailiwick. The format will change week to week. We'll have debates, reviews, hot seat interviews and special guests. So stick with us as we offer some insight on some of the most important issues we in the bailiwick face. Guernsey's housing crisis continues to spiral out of control with very few rental options and house prices soaring. People want solutions to the problem, and we've been told this inevitably means we'll have to build. Demand, supply. However, one man thinks we've been looking at the problem the wrong way, and we're not facing a supply problem, but a consumption problem. Michael Herwitz spoke to me about his experiences renting in Guernsey and his outside opinion on how we fix the problem. During the last couple of weeks, we've been going over the housing situation in Guernsey, which of course is not that great for many people for lots of different reasons. We focused this week on a single occupancy and people looking for rentals, but you say that you're coming from a different situation and that you've got a family of 6.
Yes. And technically, when we first were coming to Guernsey, because we came over in November of 2020, if you include our pets, we were a family of 9. We had 3 cats originally. Well, so the first part that I think was very good is that sort of the realtors, what we would call them, I think estate agents perhaps, around finding properties, were all very professional. I definitely wanted to help. So getting in contact with them was very good. At the time, there was no central database for housing, so you basically had to reach out and maintain relationships with every possible agent on the island, which was generally a fair amount of work. But the first thing that came across was basically, you have too many cats, you'll have to get rid of at least one.
Yep, that's a fair
So our
point.
outdoor cat our mainly outdoor cat is not with us, so we dropped immediately down to 8. And then we were told that we would have to vastly increase the deposit and to overbid on properties because of the size of our family and the pets that we had.
Yeah, you're going for a rental property here. Were you given a reason for this? Is this to put you in good standing? What was the explanation?
The explanation was effectively because you don't really have references, there would be a larger deposit. First timers, no one to sign off that we're not troublesome tenants. And then just because of the size of the family and potential wear and tear on the house, that there would be an increased cost. So we would be applying for a house, let's say that would be £2,500 a month. And we were advised, very candidly, that we should be bidding 28. And if they were asking for 1 month's deposit, we should offer 3.
So this is quite unusual. I mean, I haven't been renting. When I was renting, it was, you have 1 month's deposit. That's how it goes. And bidding was never heard of. Did you find this quite unusual?
I mean, it was very unusual for us coming from California. California also has a pretty aggressive market. But, when you reach out to the agent and they're the experts, you do what they say.
And so when did you first come over to the Guernsey, can I ask?
November 9th was when we arrived.
And did you expect this on your way over?
No.
So since then, since the troubles that you've been finding, have you sorted out your situation? Has it alleviated somewhat, or are you still finding it quite tough?
We have sorted out our situation. We did get into a house.
When you contacted me first, you suggested that, a lot of the suggestions that have been made recently from estate agents and surveyors and the people I've spoken to this week, including politicians, is Guernsey needs to build more. That is consistently the message we keep going for. But you are suggesting that's potentially not the problem and not the solution.
So yes. So if you heard my experience, which was we were bidding as much as 20% above asking and doubling or tripling the deposit. The reality is that we bid on about 22 properties before someone finally said yes.
On how many properties, sorry?
I think it was about 22. I can get you the exact number if that's helpful, but it wound up being about 22 properties across 5 agents. So basically, every agent says, okay, have you considered this one? And we said, yes, please submit on this basis. So every agent, basically, about 5 properties per agent.
And
we went through.
And sorry, you're saying that you were bidding well above what it was on the market for in every case?
Just about every case, yes.
And that must have been very tough. Did that put you off being here at all?
It was, yes. I mean, that was an issue. Are we going to have a place to live was a pretty serious question. And it was very counterintuitive, to be honest, because if you look from the outside in, it looks like there's always a reasonable number of properties available for rent or up and coming, or anything. There'll always be another house available. If we didn't get this one, there'll always be another one. And about 3 weeks into the process, there were no available properties left for us to apply for that we had not already applied for. And so we got put on the list of, before we publish these properties to the web, let these people know if they want to bid. And in some of those cases, we were actually bidding on houses before they were officially published as for rent. We still got told no. And the reason, and going back to your question that launched this, the reason that supply is not the issue is because we weren't losing out, the realtors, once again, candidly, we weren't losing out to people with, 6 family members or 7 family members or 5 family members. We were missing out to couples. Yes. Or 2 people and 1 child. And it's also, in particular, it was about how many bedrooms the average person in Guernsey was asking for. So if everybody within Guernsey had 1 bedroom to themselves, you would need a certain amount of supply. When everyone in Guernsey starts asking for 2.5 or 3 bedrooms per person, you realize that there just simply isn't enough bedrooms in Guernsey for that. And so if you talk to politicians in charge of planning, if you talk to the builders, if you talk to everyone and say, everyone in charge of supply, that what's the problem, their answer will be supply. Just like if you went to and asked a hammer, how do I fasten things? And the hammer is going to say, you buy nails. But that doesn't mean that that's the correct solution. So the reality is that many people in Guernsey have many more bedrooms than they need. And there's a lot of social reasons for it. There's a lot of economic reasons for it. There's COVID reasons for it. When people decide that they're just going to be working from home, they oftentimes get an extra bedroom as an office. So now Guernsey has a number of vacant office buildings, but that many less bedrooms.
That's an interesting point to make, because it's clearly not a massive increase in our population that is causing the severe issues that we're seeing. It can very well be tied into the COVID coronavirus, everybody working from home situation.
That's correct. So when we shift from all of those office buildings to home, there's that many less places to sleep. And so that's why classifying it as a supply problem, I think, is a misnomer. Believing that if we just build more, it'll be better. I think what there really is I think we have a consumption crisis. I think people are actually just consuming the available supply in ways that are just unheard of. So when 2 people rent a 4-bedroom, right, or 2 people and 1 child rent a 4-bedroom,
yeah,
that's 4 bedrooms taken off market. And every time you do that, you just crush the market. The other thing that we came across is that there were many people who were just simply discriminating against us, saying, I don't want 6 people in a 4-bedroom. So when you begin to do that, what happens is 6 people, like a single family, are suddenly looking for much larger houses, and there's much lower stock of that. So we wind up maybe renting 2 properties to make that work. So now it might work. The economics are harsh, but now we also have 2 kitchens, 2 living rooms, 2 everything else. So our solution there is to simply not consume something commensurate with what we're doing, but we're almost being forced to consume more. Similarly, if you had 4 friends that wanted to rent a house together, those 4 friends would get one kitchen in one house. If they're forced to get 4 apartments, they now have 4 kitchens. It's quite good for the builders because now they get to build 4 more kitchens.
With all the building supplies they don't have at the moment, yeah.
Well, and that I think is another critical point is if you harp on supply, what you're really saying is that Guernsey money is going to now leave Guernsey bringing in supplies to build houses. And those houses will most likely be bought on mortgages, not from necessarily Guernsey-based banks, which means all of the interest on those houses is also going to leave Guernsey. So you can quickly see that just leaning on a supply problem will also lead to money exiting Guernsey, which is not the best way of doing things. You don't want to pick a social policy that involves an exodus of funds.
It's a multi-faceted problem that's going on at the moment. Going back to your point about people renting houses with 5, more bedrooms than they require, the problem there being there's no laws or anything to stop landlords doing whatever they want or deciding whoever they want to be in their homes. Pets being a great example of people who are literally being never picked for a rental property.
And it wouldn't be so. It wouldn't be difficult, for instance, for Guernsey to pass relatively simple protections where a landlord must choose a tenant solely based on their references and the prices they're willing to pay and everything, and tenants aren't even allowed or permitted or asked to disclose the full number of people or things like that. So it's very easy to make it a blind sort of test. But I don't think that's also the whole issue. I think one of the other issues is, so that's about what I would classify as new consumption. Yes. People coming onto the island or people moving into a house. There's also, given the age of Guernsey's population, a fair amount of old consumption. So when people send their kids off to uni and keep their 4-bedroom family house, even though they didn't just move in, it's still now 2 people consuming 4 bedrooms.
And people want to retain the houses that they have. They don't want to move or reduce the size of their house.
Even if those rooms go largely unused. There is a huge supply of, I would classify them as spare bedrooms that simply don't have a means of getting to market. And that's not to say all of them would get to market. But if you were to actually look at the amount of houses that are available where there's a 1-bedroom sat there and say that maybe 5 or 10% of those might be willing to open that room up for rent if it was made easy enough or incentivized enough, you could easily find probably 1 or 2 or maybe even 1,000 bedrooms that could hit the market that would require 0 building. It would also keep those funds into Guernsey.
You're asking for a pretty major culture shift there. I mean, I agree with you. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to be done.
Well, bear with me on some numbers for a second. If there's 10,000 homes where that's a situation, which is, 1 bedroom, and you get, 10%, 1 out of every 10, let's say, to agree, you very, very quickly have a huge amount of available space. And so we're not asking for a massive culture shift. I'm not asking for everyone to get up and adopt this idea. But if a small percentage does, and it's to everyone's benefit, especially if it's in a way that adds to financial incentives to those people, then I think, A, you will increase the supply at least some, but it'll also snowball. Now, obviously, you're going to get some early adopters in first, but the first 10%, I think, would cause the second 10% to really think, oh, maybe I can do that too. Especially if, imagine a scenario where you had to tell your gran, I can get you 800 quid a month for that bedroom in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people would jump on that.
I think if you could quantify that and make it easy enough for them, they would jump on that. And after your gran said yes, all of your gran's friends are going to be looking around thinking, well, where's my 800 quid?
Has your interest in this come from your own experience then? Because you sound very passionate and educated in the issue that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, so I'm a data scientist, and I got into this because I'm actually a chemist by training. Sorry, an industrial chemist, not a pharmacist, as we would say back in the States. I'm an industrial chemist by training, and we learned in school that the data is important. And so because of that, when I see social policy being written on what I believe to be bad data, it bothers me. And so that's, for me, it's the statement that, somebody wrote a supply-demand equation on a whiteboard somewhere and said, housing prices are high, increase supply. And honestly, the data doesn't say that.
That's not necessarily the answer that you should get from that equation.
Yeah, exactly. The data doesn't say that we've picked up 10,000 new residents from the UK in the past 6 months. There's a serious housing crunch. The data actually says that everyone has been consuming, however many more percentage points of bedroom space on the island. And so, pushing supply or asking everybody to reduce their demand account for the same thing. But when the data doesn't say invest in supply, the data says curtail demand, and no one else seems to say that, because I don't know if nobody else has the data or nobody else has really thought about it that way. I mean, it's fair that when everybody shares one perspective only, i.e., build more, that becomes the window that everyone sees through. But realistically, as I've said, it's not the answer, not the only possible answer. Let me put it that way.
Thank you for listening to the Bailiwick Express podcast. The title track was Shift My Weight by Luno. If you enjoyed it, I know it's a pain, but please like and share. It all helps, and remember, you can hit bailiwickexpress.com to stay right up to date with whatever is happening in the Bailiwick. You can find us online, on social, on email, and on internet radio. There'll be more from me, Matthew Leach, and all the Bailiwick Express team next Friday.